We are rolling. So I actually got a lot of fucking awesome feedback from the podcast we did with Wally.
Oh, nice.
People were dying.
Yeah.
One of my guys told me, he says it's like The Sopranos, because one of the reasons why Sopranos is so great for people from New York and New Jersey is because you see everything. Like, oh yeah, I witnessed all this. Like and he was like, dude, I was there with you the whole fight. Like everything you were talking about, I know exactly what the hell you're talking about. It was fucking hilarious. But this weekend, bro, this fucking weekend, I have a story for you. So my buddy Vinny's bachelor party this weekend, and I fucking hate going out. I hate it. I've been dreading it.
Booze.
What's that?
Did you booze?
No, I didn't even fucking booze.
Oh, okay.
So I got a new NFL guy, and I'm rehabbing his hamstring, and he's just, you know, for the next couple of weeks. He got released because of the injury, got a payment, pay settlement, whatever. I'm rehabbing his hammy, and then he's probably going to get a workout like this week, next week. He'll be gone soon, but it enabled me to go to the bachelor party late. The bachelor party was supposed to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I only went on Friday night. So I was like, oh, good. Like, I don't, the guy, the NFL dude was like, listen, I'm sorry, Friday night, is that too late? I said, no, it's fucking perfect. Like, it delays me going. So I go, we get down, Joey Goods and I drive down to the bachelor party. We get there at like, I don't know, 7:30. We get to the house at like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. And it's 2 hours away, 2.5 hours away. And there's no one fucking there. So me and Joe just gets in his fucking robe. he's in his underwear and robe right away. And we're playing pool. We're listening to Norm Macdonald. By the way, do you know who Norm Macdonald is?
No.
Okay. Norm Macdonald's a comedian. He's fucking hilarious. He's dead though. He's absolutely hilarious. So we're listening to Norm Macdonald, and then 2.5 hours goes by, 3.5 hours goes by. We're by ourselves in this huge fucking house. We're like, man, I hope we're in the right fucking house. So we're in the right house, but everyone shows back up probably around 12 o'clock. And I wanted to go to sleep. There's 10 rooms in this mansion. Every bed is taken, but I got the camper on the top of my truck. So I said, fuck it. I don't give a shit. I'm fine. Goods got nowhere to sleep. So he goes to sleep on the couch, but we know these fucking maniacs are going to come rolling in absolutely plastered. And there's like 15, 20 guys in this house. So we stay up. We end up staying up until 3 a.m. And these guys are hammered. I didn't drink. Joe didn't drink. Stay up until 3 a.m. These guys are absolutely plastered. I go out to my truck to go to sleep. But, you know, when I use this truck, I'm usually in the woods when I go in the tent to go to sleep. But I'm on a fucking street down the shore. So cars are driving by, and I hear car doors open, close. I'm sitting there thinking like someone's going to come in this fucking tent. So like I was up all night. I was up all fucking night. My Oura ring, it said I got like 2 hours of sleep or some shit, like 11 minutes of deep and like 7 minutes of REM. Like the worst night of sleep I could have possibly had. We wake up at 6 a.m. because we're going on a fishing excursion. Right? We're going to go for fluke and I forget, like something else. I forget what else. So my dad had a boat. So I've been on boats before. I've been on fishing excursions before. Like, I like them. It's not bad. So I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'll do this. All these guys are hungover, but they all fish. So like, yeah, fuck it. Let's do it. So we get on the boat. We're fine. Everyone's fucking fine. We start cruising out there. Everyone's fine. And there are these big fucking swells. There's 8 to 10 foot swells. And everyone just starts going, whoa, what's going on? So apparently there was a tropical storm or a hurricane out to sea. It didn't hit land, but it hit sea, and it's fucking up the water bad. But we didn't think anything of her. And captain didn't say anything. No one said anything about it. So we thought like, all right, business as usual. No big deal. And a couple of guys are like, oh, I took Dramamine before this. I'm a little hungover, but I'll be all right. One of my buddies cracks open a fucking beer. He goes, no, you got to let the hangover. Like, this is the only way to kill the hangover. Got to fucking drink.
Yeah.
Another guy's got a cigar, a hangover, and a beer. I look at him and I'm like, yo, bro, that's just fucking that's an accident waiting to happen. Like you're in deep shit. Like this is going to be problematic. He goes, nah, man, I do this on boats all the time. I'm fine. I'm like, okay, cool. So we get out to sea like 20, 30 miles, and the swells get bigger and fucking bigger and bigger. And I've been on boats my whole fucking life. I start getting nauseous. I'm like, man, what's going on? I think I need to take a shit. I think that's what I've never been seasick before in my fucking life. Never been seasick in my life. Like, I think I need to take a shit. That's what it is. I need to take a shit. So I like stumble, and I see one of the guys go, oh, here we go. I'm like, no, I'm not seasick. Like, and there was this woman on the boat too. There were a couple of chicks, but like, you know, one good looking chick. And she was on the crew. She was part of the crew. She goes, everything all right? I'm like, yeah, I just got to take a shit. I'll be all right. So they're like, okay, bathroom's open. Cool. Go in. I said, I'm going to wait for it to be a little less choppy. And the guy's like, well, no, you're going to want to do it now because you're going to miss out on valuable fishing time. I'm like, whatever. So I go, I take a dump, and I just I repaint that motherfucker. It was brutal. it was a sickening dump. So I come out, I'm like, no, I don't feel any fucking better. So I start getting these fucking cold sweats. I'm like, oh my God, I'm having a fucking flat out panic attack. Like, and I start looking at the shore. I'm like, all right, I could still see the shore. How long do we have on this fucking boat? Do I just fucking swim to the fucking shore? Like, cause I was started getting fucking sick. So I go in the cabin and I lay down. And then my one friend, Vinny, he's like 5'6", 5'5". He's like this little Italian guy, right? And he was the guy that cracked open a beer. He said, no, it'll make the hangover better. I'm in the cabin and I hear, yeah. Yeah. He just starts fucking vomiting. And then he comes back in, hair everywhere, looking like a fucking Kramer motherfucker. And he goes, yo, you got to throw up. I feel so much better. I didn't have to puke. The sound of him puking made me want to throw up. And then when he came up and said, no, I feel much better, my body's like, okay, this is time to fucking throw up. So, bro, I feel like everything, like all the spit coming to my mouth, like surging to my mouth. I'm like, oh no. So I go to the back and I just unload. First, I'm dry heaving. Because I fasted. I don't eat past 5 p.m.
Right.
I didn't eat breakfast this morning because we were going on a fucking boat. I didn't have fucking time. I'm sleep deprived like a motherfucker. So I'm just just fucking dry heaving for probably 5 or 6 fucking heaves. Like, and I'm a loud puker. Like a loud puker.
Yeah.
And there's these old guys next to me in the back, like these seasoned fucking fishermen on this fucking charter. And I'm just, and finally I just start fucking yakking. Finally get it up, and I'm unloading hell. But during that time, I feel fine. I'm like, oh, good. Thank God I'm puking. So I come back up and I'm like, no, I just don't feel any better. So I stumble back and I just start praying. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is it. Like, I don't feel good. This is the worst I've ever felt.
And like the other boys are all good. They're all up the top having a blast. So
I have no idea. I have no idea how everyone is, because I'm so fucked. I'm so fucked that I don't even know. I don't know what's going on. And prior to this, like, I was cracking jokes at everyone. Like, everyone knew who I was. Like, I was, getting a laugh out of everyone. Like, we were all getting along. And then I just vanished. I just went to the cabin and I curled into a fetal position. And then I hear the captain go, all right, we're going to head about 1-2 miles a little bit further out. And hopefully we get a little bit more fish. So he floors it. And then we're going up and down and up and down. And I'm feeling it like just, and I have to fucking sprint back up again. And I just start puking. So this is a 7-hour charter. It took us 7 hours. For 1 hour of the 7, I was throwing up. For 4 hours of the 7, I was dry heaving. So I already I puked twice. Got everything up. I fasted. There was nothing left. And it got to the point where after I puked and dry heaved, the water tasted sweet. So I was like, oh no, am I drinking fucking vodka? What am I drinking? What does this taste so fucking? So I drank a quarter of fucking water because I thought I was drinking fucking alcohol or something. I didn't know what it was, but it was just water. My mouth was just so fucked that it tasted sweet.
All the bile coming up. Yeah.
So I'm laying there puking, and then I try to stumble away, and I have to fucking stumble right back and start dry heaving. And one of the old men looks at me. He goes, "Don't puke on my shit, son." I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, sir. So deep down, I'm sitting there, and one of the guys looks at me. He goes, don't look at the ocean, just look up at the sky. So I just finished dry heaving like 10 hard dry heaves. And this fucking like hot chick, I turn around and there's like tears coming down my eyes. I should get a fucking medal for being so fucking stoic, bro. Because like, I fucking, there was tears, like I didn't wear it like on my face, like I was dying on the inside. And this chick was like looking at me, and I'm just sitting there looking up at the fucking thing, like, don't fucking look at my eyes. Don't look at my eyes. I'm not a fucking bitch, I promise. I'm really fucking tough. Like, so, bro, it was so fucking bad. Then as I'm looking up at the sky, I see one of my buddies. One of the guys is walking with his ass cheeks pinched real tight. I'm like, yo, you all right? He goes, I'll be all right if I could get in the fucking toilet. So the bathroom was locked. And then, as he's sitting there, he's like, can I just go in the women's bathroom? Is it a big deal if I go in the women's bathroom? And the women's bathroom was just blocked off. I guess it was out of order because women don't go on the fucking boat. So he's just sitting there pacing, and then all of a sudden I see him go, and he projectile vomits all over the fucking place.
In the boat, under the cabin, or where?
Like on the side of the boat. He fucking managed to puke all over the side. So then I'm like, all right, it's not just me at this point. So then he goes into the bathroom, goes, I'll be fine. Once I take a shit, I'll be fine. Comes out, immediately runs overboard and fucking starts puking again. So at this point, I'm like, oh, it's not just me. And then I get my bearings about me, and I start looking around. Dude, there were 26 people on this boat. This looked like a boat that stormed Normandy, and it was all the young kids lying down like that just got fucking shot, and then other dudes looking at the guys that got shot, so all the guts are just blah, blah. Like, it was brutal. There was a groan, like, and all the people on this charter, like they were all like fishermen. They all had their shit on, like they fish. They go out to sea and they fish, and they love this. I think it was 20 out of 26 people were vomiting.
Oh,
throwing up, like brutal seasickness. Brutal. And there were 3 old guys that were not vomiting. 2 of the 3 old guys, I turn, and like as I'm in my, it's like I it was like I was in a drunken stupor. I had like the drunken spins, but I was sober, so I still had my wits about me. I hear them yelling up at the captain, "You're certifiable! We should turn around and go back! We're not going to catch shit today! What the fuck are you doing?" Like, they're yelling at the captain. They're losing their fucking minds at the captain. And these are like all guys. I'm like, all right, maybe there's something fucking wrong here. But like, I didn't think anything of it. I just was so fucking miserable. Went back and I went to sleep. I woke up 3 separate times to sprint back and fucking go dry heaving again and come back. So my only saving grace was during one of the times I looked at one of the guys. I was like, "Excuse me, sir, what time is it?" And he's like, it's 11:15. We're supposed to be back by 2. We've already been on it for 3 fucking hours. So I'm like, all right, I'm halfway there. And I look over, and we're like 6 miles from the shore. I'm like, well, it'll take 6 hours for me to fucking swim back. So I might as well just weather this fucking storm. And in the back of my head, I really, every inch of me, every bone, every ounce of my body wanted to go to the guy and say, I started counting heads to see how many people I would have to pay for us to fucking turn around. But I didn't do it. In the back of my head, I just kept sitting there saying like, Goggins would just say, enjoy this, like, enjoy this, like, enjoy the misery. How fucking miserable could you be? And I just sat there. I was like, Goggins wouldn't pay anyone, so I'm not going to pay anyone. And Goggins wouldn't ask to go back, so I'm not going to ask to go back. There's this grown man. As I'm thinking this, there's a grown man, fisherman, lying down. And he had vitiligo. So like his whole mouth was white. So it like looked weird to begin with. I couldn't tell if it was like vomit on his face or what. Lying down on his back, screaming, for the love of God, please just turn around. So I'm inside. I'm like, thank God someone said it. And on the outside, I'm like judging him hard, like, you fucking pussy.
You pussy, yeah.
But deep down, I was like, thank God someone said it, because I've been trying to pay people off. So finally, I pass out. I go to sleep for like 2 hours, conk out. And one of the things that woke me up was someone came into the cabin. I didn't know who it was, to talk to one of the first mate. And he says, listen, bro, like, I got to tell these guys something. What time are we going back? What time are we going to make it back? These guys are dying. I got to tell them something. And he goes, tell them 2 o'clock. So that was my saving grace, 2 o'clock. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I rested peacefully for 2 hours. I wake up, it's 1 o'clock, smooth sailing. There's no bumps. There's no nothing. I'm like, all right, I'm fine. I'm good. I feel a little fucking seasick, but I'm all right. We didn't get back until fucking 3 o'clock. 3:30, we didn't get back. We found out every charter but ours was canceled.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you got that big of a swell, that's crazy.
Bro,
did anyone catch any fish?
No, that's the worst part. No one. And I didn't put a line in the water. My brother and I didn't put a line in the water the whole fucking trip. Didn't even consider it. How
was Joe?
He didn't throw up, but he had his head down on the fucking table for 7 hours. He woke up, he had this huge fucking red mark on his fucking face. Man. The other thing, I found a cold ice water and I put it on my forehead when I slept, and I woke up covered in sweat, and this thing was ice cold, and all the water had evaporated off and it stuck to my fucking face, and I had lines on my head for an hour. Like, it was a bad fucking trip. It was a bad trip. It was. So remember that time I got stoned and I started throwing up demons?
Yeah.
And it was the worst 3 hours of my life. Yeah. This is up there. Like, this was honestly one of the worst experiences of my entire life.
Yeah, seasick is no joke.
Dude, I've never been seasick. I've never been seasick in my life. And I've been on boats so many times. Have you ever been seasick?
No. But I've heard bad stories from people that have been.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I mean, if the fact that none of you caught a fish, I'm surprised it even went out. Because if it's that bad, the tropical storm and everything else got cancelled.
Yeah. So this guy just didn't want to miss out on a fucking payday. Like, there were 20, 30 people on this boat paying $65 a head. So he's like, well, gotta make money somehow, motherfucker. I can take it. Not my fault if you can't, but he ain't getting any repeat business, I'll tell you that.
So the rest of the guys that were boozing hard the night before and they were cracking it open, were they just as bad as everybody else?
Dead. Bro, I'm telling you, it was like a fucking war movie. And the kid that had the cigar, and perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Perfectly fine. He was like, no, I was all right the whole time, man. I was just fine. No fucking worries. The only guy on the boat that was in our whole group that was fucking fine. And they didn't catch anything. Nothing. No one was allowed to catch everything that they caught. They had to throw back because it was too small. Worst fishing day. Everything was bad.
I bet you were grateful when your feet were back on land.
I was so happy. And the other thing too is, like, an hour in, I started getting like the cold sweats, and a panic attack. Like, I had to start controlling my anxiety because I was like, yo, I want to get the fuck off this boat. Like, I'm trapped. I need to get the fuck out of here. Like, let me just swim to shore. Fuck this. I'm going to fucking jump off this boat and fucking swim to shore. And I looked at Vinny. I was like, dude, this is a bad move. This is a big mistake. We should turn around right now. Like, something doesn't feel right. He's like, nah, it'll be fine. Worst Dude, I'm not kidding. Worst experience of my life. Worst fucking experience I've ever had in my entire fucking life. It was horrifying. Horrifying. I would have rather died. Dude, I'm not kidding. I would have rather died. I'd rather never exist. And it was so bad. I contemplated like just jumping off the boat and just being like, no, I'm not going back on it. like one of those things
saved
like,
by the Coast Guard.
And I had a knife in my belt. I was thinking about just fucking stabbing my arm. Just like, no, I fell and we have to turn around now. Like I was contemplating some seriously fucked up shit in order to turn around. I was so fucking done with it. I couldn't be on that boat anymore. But I got against my way.
If only you'd drunk the night before, so you'd have been even worse, because that story would have been incredible.
I don't know how I could have been worse. I really don't. For me, maybe, and the only time I felt good was when I was dry heaving and throwing up. Right. That was when I felt my best. That's how bad I was. It was horrible. It was horrible.
And then when you was good as gold as soon as you got back?
No. So it took me fucking, when we got back, I was motion sick all day. I was still motion, but like, it wasn't bad motion sickness. Like it was just residual. Then yesterday, so I drove home and I was like conking out at the wheel, driving home later that night. Got home at like 10:30 that night. I slept from 10:30 straight through to like 7:30. Woke up, did some work, did some shit, went back to sleep for another fucking 2 hours. Like, and I didn't feel good until after I ate food, took a nap for a 2-hour nap, and then woke up again. Like, even driving to the restaurant that Vicky and I went to felt like shit. And like, even now, like if I'm just a little too still, like I still feel like a little fucking motion. I couldn't believe how I bent over to grab a water and I almost fell over. What the fuck is going on? I've never, and I had like vertigo. It was so fucking bad. It was so, dude, it was horrible. It was fucking horrible. Worst experience of my fucking life. So I ain't going on your fucking rowboat.
No, that's fine. I get you.
I'm telling you that right now.
Yeah, I wonder. I'm curious how that goes, because the only thing that I really know about it is that the first 3 days of the rowing is meant to be like the worst 3 days of your life, because you're just so sick and you're so exhausted and you're not used to this whole sleep routine. Because I mean, if you've got 2 hours on, 2 hours off with your partners, right? In those 2 hours off, you need to eat, drink, and sleep in it. So at most, you're probably getting what? An hour and a half, Kip? Most. So I think the first 3 days, yeah, I've heard from loads of people, it's like, that's the worst thing. Once you get over that, then I think your body gets kind of accustomed to it. But if you're in massive storms, say, for example, if it's so bad that you have to be then in the cabins underneath, which have, they're tiny, right? They're not even meant to have 2 people in each, because you share a cabin with the other guy, right? So one guy's rowing and then the other one can be resting underneath. And I mean, it depends on the boat, but the ones that I've seen, you can't really sit up in the cabin, it's too shallow. So you kind of just, a bit bigger than a coffin, let's say, but could you imagine if you're stuck in there? Because I've heard stories where guys are stuck in there for some days, cramped up together.
Why?
The storms? Well, because the storms are so bad. You can't go out and the boats can be capsizing back and forth, and then you're in huge swells. I mean, in the middle of the Pacific, it can get big. So, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Fucking no. Like, how I said, like, I'm your foxhole guy. Like, if shit hits the fan, like, yeah. I can get, dude, I'm telling you right now, I couldn't do it. I would have let you die. I would have let you fucking die so fast. So
the foxhole's on land. I get it.
Bro, if the devil came down and said, hey, listen, in order for you to stop feeling like this, someone's got to die. I just be him. Like, I don't care. That the way I felt, bro, it was so fucking bad. It was
the only other story I've heard of this one is from my dad once. He went out and they'd been boozing real hard the night before. And he said he spent the whole time, he's never been on a boat since, spent like 6 hours, something like that. Also just puking his brains out. And it turned him off it forever since. He never even took me when I was younger because of that experience.
That's dude. That's how my mom is, and I always thought my mom was a pussy. And Vicky gets like that too in the car. Like, and I can't read in the car. I'll get motion sick in the car, right? Like,
Yeah,
but
me
I've always
too.
been like that. Like, so, but I've never been seasick, ever. This was horrifying. It was hard. I don't know. And my dad was in the Navy. Now, on those boats, you're not getting nearly as bad as this shit. You know what I mean? Like
No.
a big boat, you won't feel it nearly as bad. But I mean, imagine if you're stuck on that fucking boat and this is your life for the next few months.
Sure. Well, there's a lot of guys that sailing in small boats around the world. They're living on them. I guess you get used to it after a certain amount of time. But also the storms, they can be, I mean, 10-foot swells. Okay, that's big. But swells can go up to 100-foot.
Dude.
More.
And
probably.
what's fucked is before I fucking passed out, what I was thinking was, oh my God, these fucking slaves. These slaves were down and they were locked in a fucking basement in the bottom of the fucking boat where it's the fucking worst.
Oh,
and they're just puking all over each other and they got nowhere to shit. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Like,
yeah,
oh my.
Back in the days too, there'd be rats on board.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm sitting there for 3 hours. What was that voyage? 6 weeks it would take? 6
Which
weeks
one?
to go across the fucking slave trade.
Oh, yeah, God knows. Yeah, bro. But they probably weren't even getting off the boat anyway.
Oh my gosh. That's what I was sitting there thinking that, and it just made me feel even worse. Not
so
only
in terms of like acupuncture and acupressure points, are there any that are like meant to help resolve sickness?
so what's really interesting is there's two things that acupuncture has researchers suggested it's actually good for. One is post-surgical nausea intervention, which means nausea. And the other thing is pain. So if I do, but the research, I'm not sure what acupuncture points were used. But I mean, from an acupuncture standpoint, I have to, whatever my symptoms were, and then what my tongue looks like, what my pulse is, time of the year, all that shit, that'll indicate what points that I use. So I can technically utilize acupuncture to make me feel better. And it didn't even cross my fucking mind. I couldn't think. All I thought was, can I make this swim? And the other thing that fucked me up was I was like, well, it's not just me on this boat. It's my fucking brother too. I can't leave him behind. So I looked at Joe. I was like, listen, because you're fat, like you're going to float more than me and I'm going to sink. So we need to
use him as a life raft.
Right. I was like, all you need to do is do a dead man's float and you just kick your legs for the whole fucking 6 miles if shit happens, bro. You're just, okay. Like I have to work. You don't have to work. So we got to figure, like, just so you know, you don't have to. And Joe's like, all right, whatever, man, whatever the fuck you're talking about. But I'm sitting here doomsday prepping for when this fucking boat crashes. It was, oh my gosh. I can't, I won't do it ever again. Like you and your sailboat, enjoy it.
Well, rowboat, yeah. No, then it takes even longer.
You were telling me that you wanted to hop on a sailboat and be there for a year. That sounds
love
really
to sail
romantic.
around. I'd love to sail around the world at one point for sure. Yeah, and if shit ever hits the fan, I'd go move on one. I think that's kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, dude, I've never had bad seasickness before.
Dude, it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. So moving on. Moving fucking on. So now we got some questions regarding bodywork. Some people wanted us to talk more about bodywork. I asked what, and they said just dive into it more.
So how do you even classify what bodywork is? What even is that?
So there's 3 things that constitute bodywork for me. I have stretching. I still use stretching as bodywork, right? So like whether it's reciprocal inhibition, PNF, static stretching, whatever the fuck, I don't, it's still working on someone's body. There's soft tissue manipulation, whether it's with a tool like Graston or gua sha in acupuncture, or, you're using your thumbs to do something, whether it's a pin and stretch or whether it's a pin and contract or whatever the fuck it is. There's, or just basic basic massage, like Tuina or like effleurage, petrissage, whatever. Then, and there's also voodoo bands, right? So it's compression. So I'll use voodoo bands as well. Then there's also acupuncture, needle intervention. When it comes to all these things, there's a time and a place for absolutely everything. And when it comes to acupuncture, there's multiple ways that you can utilize it. You can do superficial. You can go acupuncture points, channel theory, which in Japanese acupuncture, they'll go a quarter of an inch down. Like, so you'll barely puncture the skin, right? You'll just get, and they get decent results. Like, people feel better. I don't know whether it's placebo or whether it's hitting the meridians. I know with athletes, it needs to be a bit more intense to yield the benefits. However, for like these NARPs, like non-athletic regular people, it's
good term. I never heard that before.
for NARPs. So 80% of people with back pain, 80% of people with back pain, if you give them antidepressants, their back pain goes away in 80%. So is that placebo? Is that depression? Whatever. It's clearly not something as physical, right? So if we can do something light enough that can either make them feel better in one way or another, superficial needling can help. Whether it's a placebo effect or whether it's something so slight and they're just so sensitive to pain, it could be doing the trick. There's also deep needling. So there's, with deep needling, it's your deep needling. It's not called deep needling, but like trigger point therapy. You're hitting the muscle. Now, there's different ways to go about hitting the muscle. You can, a lot of really explosive guys, the twitches are more superficial, and less explosive guys I've noticed, the twitches kind of seem to be a little bit more deep. And then you could also utilize stim on the area as well, on the needle area, or on just basic stim pads. What else, like EMS? So what else am I missing in regards to bodywork? What else would you add?
Well, there's a couple things. So you said that the Japanese are only putting the needles in a quarter of an inch. When you're doing more trigger point therapy, how deep are you actually going?
It depends. It depends on the muscle. There's sometimes where, and it depends where the muscle is located. So there's sometimes where you're needling someone's, let's say, needling someone's shoulder, either the deltoid. So if you're needling their deltoid, medial deltoid, rear delt, front delt, it's going to be right on the surface area, and you go boom, and it's probably about maybe I don't know, at most half an inch deep, where you could fucking really get the trigger. And to be clear, guys, I don't know what the trigger does. They tell me that if the muscle's tensed and knotted up, the introduction of the needle causes a spasm in the muscle to get it to release, and it like resets the muscle. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what I'm taught.
Do you have to pull? So if you trigger, I mean, I guess that you can really feel it, right? Because then the muscle, I mean, I've had it done, like the muscle really contracts aggressively. Do you have to pull the needle out before the muscle contracts? Is there any risk of getting the needle get stuck in there or something like that?
Yes, there's risk of that. Needles get bent. People have gotten needles stuck in them before as well. So yeah, I mean, there are risks with everything. I haven't seen it, and whatever. But what I've noticed is the more you needle and get it to trigger, the more sore the person is. Now, I don't know whether you want to sit there and just constantly keep triggering the muscle, because I really don't want to yield that much of a stiffness adaptation for someone to be that sore. Some people will think that you need to keep pumping until it stops triggering, because that's getting everything out. The other thing that I thought is if you trigger it once and then just stim the area and get the area to just calm down and relax, you can yield the benefit that you want and you won't be as sore. So that's one way of looking at it as well in regards to the trigger point. So that's a little bit deeper. Now, that's with the scap, but there's also the insertion point of the rotator cuff, right? Which is, again, more medial delt. That's a little deeper. So even though I'd stick the needle in maybe an inch. With some people, like, you know, stronger dudes, it might go in an inch. It's still superficial on the muscle. So typically it's not deep in the muscle belly. And I've talked with a couple people about it too, is do I even want to hit the fibers themselves, or am I going to the fascial sheath around the fibers that's causing, that message to be sent? So there's muscle twitching, there's fascial twitching, which is more superficial. And if you look at the layer of the onion, it's just a more outer layer and it's less invasive. So like the less invasive you can be with the most results, it's like minimal effective dose. You don't want to fucking slam them home if you don't have to. So everything that I do with Bodywork is very, very, very minimal. So we learned gua sha. And when people first started doing Graston, people's arms they do it on the neck and it just be fucking red, like black and blue. And we teach that. We were taught that with gua sha. And we're taught that we're getting, I don't know, like getting toxins out, getting wind out. I don't know. What I will say is that I've noticed that areas that get redder quicker typically are problem areas. So maybe it's not necessarily a problem solver, but it seems to be a problem identifier. Same thing with cupping too. Oh yeah, that's another aspect of soft tissue work that we can use too, cupping. So I don't know. I try to be as mild as possible when it comes to the Bodywork. And someone made a post a few weeks ago, and they had said something like comparing all the different, you know, cupping, stretching, foam rolling, massage, all this shit, and needle intervention. And what I noticed with all these things is, yes, for the right time, there is a right tool. But majority of the time, my stretching is, the stretching routine that I do is superior. Not every time, because there are aspects where if this stretching routine doesn't work, like maybe I'll try cupping, maybe I'll try needling, maybe I'll try something else, right? So, or the voodoo bands, right? So, but majority of the time, the stretching routine that I came up with seems to be working best. Now, the approach changes, right? So it's like the one time I said, well, if I have lower back pain, sometimes it's the glute, sometimes it's the adductor, sometimes it's the hip flexor, sometimes it's the quad, sometimes it's the hamstring. It all depends on what I'm attacking to get that opened up. And then there's other times where this person's hip has been off for quite some time. Adjusting it doesn't do it. Stretching it doesn't do it. The only thing that does it is whoop, a needle right in that glute med, or a needle right in the glute max, or what you know, a needle somewhere that gets it to actually whoo, and go back in place, or me sticking my fucking elbow right in that glute and having them go through a range of motion, right? So sometimes there's only certain things that work, and the less invasive doesn't. But I always go from low intensity to high intensity, because I could always build up. It's tough to back off once you already hit that damage. Plus, when you do any needling, any intensive needling, I don't let them do any high intensity work after that.
Right. And I guess also is the needle more effective if the person's warm?
I assume it should be, from a proprioceptive standpoint, right? And it would help the muscle. I don't know if the needle is more effective if the person's warm, but but it would certainly make it easier to like right. If you have a muscle full of blood, it's not going to be as knotted. Where if you have a cold muscle, it's more likely to be knotted. So I mean, with massage, if you're doing a flushing massage over an area and you just keep warming it up, pushing, and not real deep at all, the muscle's going to loosen up. Eventually, it'll loosen up. You know, it's just going to take time. So the more warm it is, the easier it is for it to loosen up. So maybe the needle will be more effective. But acupuncture is not practiced under like a stressed condition like that. Acupuncture is a relaxed condition. So it's like the complete, it's a parasympathetic, not sympathetic.
Right.
So I don't know. Qigong is practiced. Sometimes it's practiced before, but Qigong is like almost like their physical therapy where they'll do Qigong after the acupuncture as well for their motor re-education.
Right.
So it's like needle, then movement. But, and the other thing too is if you're moving and you're warming the muscle up, you're also imprinting poor motor patterns. Right. So by doing all those movements beforehand, I mean, but you've already been doing them anyway. So what fucking difference does it make? So I don't know. Yeah, I suppose a warm body is always best for any kind of body work. I mean, for stretching, it certainly is. I'll have my guys on the bike before I do any stretching, or because it makes my job so much easier.
For sure. I don't really want guys on the table unless they're sweating. It just makes the whole thing so much easier. And I can imagine probably it's the stacking, right? So say, I don't know, you got guys on the table, you're going through the stretching protocol after they're already warm. There might be some manipulation there. Maybe things start to open up. If you find a problematic area, maybe you massage it a little bit. If it's still not going, then a needle. And then right afterwards, as you said, a bit of stim work. That to me sounds like a much smarter approach to the whole thing. But then it's also harder to quantify and measure, and also to be able to find any literature on it because you're stacking so many different modalities all on top of each other.
Yeah, the motor re-education post bodywork intervention, I think, is paramount. That's the only way you're going to get it to stick. So you absolutely, the stretching routine again that I do post needle intervention, or even post voodoo bands, anything, any kind of body work, any kind of change that you've done to the system, that stretching routine is decent because it's contract, it's getting motor re-education in. It's contract, relax in proper ranges of motion, essentially.
So let's go into that because you brought that up at the beginning. So part of the stretching, there's multiple factors, but the first one you said is reciprocal inhibition. So what is that for people that don't know?
Reciprocal inhibition is you have the agonist and antagonist relationship, right? So if you're contracting the agonist, the antagonist will relax. If you're contracting the antagonist, the agonist will relax. So it's like your hamstring. If you ever get hamstring cramps, start flexing your quad, like contract your quad, and then the hamstring will relax. Same thing with your calf, the tibialis anterior. Flex tib ant, and then the calf will almost shut off a little bit. Now, you don't want to force it, but that just facilitates the brain to say, oh, there we go. Let's start relaxing this muscle. So we utilize that in stretching to open up the muscles even more so. And then once you open up the muscles, then you contract the agonist, and then it'll shorten the muscle, but also strengthen the muscle and help you realize how to utilize that muscle in that range of motion.
Yeah. It's like a strength and stretch position, right? And then once you've done that, then their range of motion usually does increase too. So you can take the body to a new range and then get them to sort of increase proprioception there by trying to push against, etc.
Yeah. But, you know, as far as certifications or anything go and this type of stuff, I don't know. Maybe not. You know, I was talking to Ryan about, you know, where I want the gym going, where I want my career going, and all that stuff. And I suppose maybe I lost focus for a little bit. You know, I got calls from all these pro athletes asking me to travel, and then, you know, like a fucking John Bon Jovi hitting me up asking me to fucking travel and you know, well, would you want to go on tour and this? And no, right. But it changed my thought process a little bit, where my goals had switched, where when I left DeFranco's, I never wanted to be, I didn't care if I was world renowned, right? Like the world renowned just happened sort of thing. And world renowned, you know, like I got popular. It just kind of because I was doing my thing, right? Like remember when Brandon Marshall first called when you were there, we're like, oh, fuck, this is fucking sweet. How'd you find out about me? He says Instagram. So that was because you was commenting on videos of him doing things and you were like, yo, be careful because your ankle, something like that, right? He was jumping. I don't know. Didn't you? I think it was something like that. No, I think that happened. I think I commented that after he had reached out to me. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. But I've never like fished for clients or anything like that. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I've never done that. They just started coming to me. And more big time clients started coming. But when I left DeFranco's, I watched a top 10 gym in the country, top 10 gym in the world, right? Like voted on up by all these magazines and stuff. Struggle. Like essentially almost go out of business because of overhead, right? So the guy and Joe's business is fucking insane. Joe's reach is huge. I mean, every strength coach knows who Joe is, but his own gym was struggling. And after I left Joe's gym, I said, you know, I'd rather be the best gym in the county than a top 10 gym in the world. Because, I mean, I saw what a top 10 gym in the world gets you. Like he had to close his gym because it wasn't worth it financially for him to keep it open. Mm-hmm. And I love training people. I don't ever want to be in that position. So I'm going to make sure that my gym is the best gym in Bergen County, which happens to be one of the richest counties in the country. And I'm okay with that. And that's what I did for years. And then I started getting these calls from all these guys saying like, oh, well, hey, I hear you're pretty good. I'd love to come train with you. And I'm like, oh, maybe if I just expand my reach, then what I'll do is I'll start training more of these guys and it'll enable me to funnel more people to my coaches. And then I can get more coaches to help me out doing this stuff. And then I could get guys making a very, very good living doing what they want to do. And I could help more people that way. That's not a bad idea. So maybe what I should do is I should get myself out there. I should put myself out there. I should become more popular. That way I could do more of this and it'd be great. And it would help the gym brand and it would help us grow. And then I realized like, well, me going to acupuncture school and me training Kevin Love were two of the worst things I've ever done for my business. Mm-hmm. Two of the worst things I've ever done for my business. Like Ryan's clientele has grown exponentially. Like his business is huge because for 3 years he's been focusing on building his business. And for 3 years, I mean, I still generate more than he does, but not at that same ratio that I was before. Like he's slowly catching up. And one of the reasons that happened was, well, Kevin had asked me, he said, well, I need you to make me a priority. Okay, I'll make you a priority. And then I'll make my pro guys a priority. And then I will also make acupuncture school a priority. So I did all that and focused my energy on those three things rather than focusing my energy on the gym. And it cost me money. So that's why I say like I make more money not traveling. And I charge astronomical rates to travel. And it's still, I make less money doing that. Whereas if I were to stay in the gym, my business could have grown proportionally to Ryan's, if not more, because I'm from the area. I know everyone. Mm-hmm. And Ryan and I were talking about it. He goes, yeah, man, like imagine if you didn't do that, where your business would be right now. And I'm sitting here, I'm motherfucking myself. Like, this is so stupid. What the fuck did I do? Like, I'm sitting here thinking like, well, I just did what Joe did and started training Triple H and let my business fail. Now our gym is booming. We're doing very, very well. We're doing just fine, but we could have been doing substantially better. And it's all because I lost sight of my initial goal, which was consistently be the best gym in Bergen County, which we are, but I didn't capitalize on it. And I should have. I was thinking
goalposts have moved because I mean, I remember at the beginning when we first started doing the podcast, and that was over a year ago now. Your goalposts were more to be the coach, right? To be the best coach you could be. And I mean, that's why you went to the school. That's why you learn more things. That's why you took on bigger challenges with some of the bigger pro guys. So, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. but there's just this two different goalposts: mastery in a skill or business revenue. I mean, they're two different things, right? I mean, how many good coaches do we know that are skint, and how many booming gyms do we know and the coaching's terrible? They're not synonymous.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So I mean, now what I did was a short-term loss for a long-term gain, right? I learned, and I was able to bring another trade and another billable into the facility, which will only help long-term. However, I had almost lost sight of what I was doing. Almost. I didn't completely lose sight of it, but I'm going to start dialing it back more a little bit and focusing just on the gym. So that's why I had reached out to Guillaume.
Yeah.
That's how you say his name, right?
Guillaume. Yeah.
Guillaume. And we were talking about all different types of marketing. I've never marketed before. I've never done anything. And he was teaching me all about how to market. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to market the gym. And you know, Boyle, I don't think Boyle's ever spent money on marketing. I don't think Cressy spends money on marketing. I don't give a fuck. Whatever. Like whatever I can do.
There are many other people to do. I mean, I remember Guillaume saying, and anyone who doesn't know that name, we did a podcast with him, Guillaume Blanchard. It's really good. He's an entrepreneur. He was saying that Disney's the biggest brand and most recognized brand in the world that still spends money every single day on marketing and advertising. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yep.
Who cares if it gets you closer to your goal? But also, I mean, wasn't it Cressy also who used to turn down coaching the big baseball guys because he was like, look, over a 10-year period for my business, it's going to cost you this much money, and no guy's going to spend that much on him per year.
And he was absolutely right.
Yeah,
absolutely right. Now, what sucks is you see the potential with when a private person wants to pay you, right? Like right, but like it's not an anti-fragile business model, because the second something goes wrong, now you're out money.
Yep.
Right, and that shouldn't be the case. You should always make it so you won't be losing money any way you turn. You need it to be anti-fragile. So, I mean, realistically, if I just had 2 Kevin Loves, I'd be sitting pretty, right? Like I'd be fine. If I had 2 Kevin Loves, I wouldn't need a gym. I'd make more money than I could possibly know what to do with. So I'd be fine. I'd be set. But then what? Then I lose 1 Kevin Love sort of thing, and now I'm making half the money. Whereas if I just keep doing my business and grow FreakStrength to be the best gym in the county and consistently be the best gym in the county and make it so it's overtly apparent that we're the best gym in the county, is like, hey, if you want results, go there, then I don't have to worry about anything. And I don't have to charge one person astronomical fees. Everyone gets charged decent fees, fair fees, and everything's good. You're not paying for time or money lost on my end. That's how it should be. That's how I need to do my model. And that's why Cressy doesn't do the traveling. And he's fucking smart for that. It needs to be life-changing money in order. So when it comes to jobs too, and this is like decent advice for anyone looking to go into jobs, right? So I have a business. My business generates X, and my business will continue to generate X. I've been doing it now for, holy fuck, we're going on year 8. Year 8 is this week. The start of year 8 is this week. So I've been doing it for 7 years, very, very consistently, making X amount of money very consistently and growing, right? So I've been doing that for 7 years. Chances are it will occur at this rate for 7 more years. There's no reason why it would slow. No reason why it would slow at all. Like, we've been through good times, we've been through bad times, we've moved, we've changed buildings, all that stuff. No reason it should slow. Outside of some, even during the fucking pandemic, it wasn't bad. So we're pretty solid at the gym. For me to leave the gym, it needs to be X amount of dollars guaranteed for the next 7 years to outweigh what I'm doing now. Because right now I make my own schedule, so I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I do whatever I want. I'm the boss. I don't have to report to anyone. On top of that, I have a decent living doing what I want to do. So not only does it need to match it, it needs to supersede it. It needs to get past that. And at what rate? So is it worth me taking a job and working more hours, working for someone for $50,000 extra a year? No. $100,000 extra a year? No. 200,000 for how long?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So like, then that's when the numbers start adding up. So if I went from working 60 hours a week to working 70 hours a week, is that worth $100,000? Maybe. Right? Maybe it's worth $100,000 for me to take that much more time away from my family when I'm already shortchanging it. So like, these are the things that I have to consider, and everyone needs to consider when looking at new jobs.
Yeah, and constantly consider it, because I don't know. I feel like my goalposts have changed a lot over a year too. And there's so many other factors that can do it for you. It's not just to do with the business, but like even cultural stuff, like with the pandemic, or say you end up with having more of a family, you have another kid. Let's say you already have one or two, and then you have another one that puts other financial pressure on you, or if it's your first kid or whatever. So there's so much stuff. And I don't know, the whole time, the only thing that keeps coming in my head now is, it's like what Keir said, right? With the magnifying glass. It's like, you know, you have to keep it focused on one thing for it to ignite. If you're waving it all over the place, you're not going to get anywhere. And you can have anything you want, but you can't have everything. And, you know, there's only so much energy that you can put in towards everything. So, I mean, you know, because there can be circumstances if you're just starting off. I'm sure there are some guys that have had one big client, and that guy's made them very big, famous, or popular. Then they can open a gym, and then it does them good. But for where you are, yeah, it doesn't look like right now that it doesn't make any sense. You don't want to commute. You know, you don't want to be told what to do. So your level of freedom is worth so much more money to you than probably what someone is willing, like realistically going to pay you on top of what you're already earning now for you to go and do it. Plus also your gym over the long term could end up probably earning you more money than any job could. Yes. If you do it properly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now there's benefits to taking, like, let's say there's benefits to taking a college job.
Yeah.
If I have a college job for, let's say, 10, 15 years, I have a pension that goes along with that. Yep. That's a retirement, and that's a percentage off of what I was earning.
Yep.
So that's a benefit. But when you take a college job, you're a traveling salesman.
Yep. 5
years here, 6 years there, 2 years here, 1 year there, 4 years there. Now you're just fucking wandering everywhere. Whereas here, let's say I make more money doing that. Once I take one of those jobs, I'm committed to that job.
Yep.
Like, I'm committed to that lifestyle of sitting there. Otherwise, I have to come back here and start all over again.
Yep.
Which wouldn't be as hard, but still going to be difficult. And I'm going to have to eat shit for a few years, which eventually would then even out to earning the same amount of money here. I don't know.
Bro, there's no perfect situation or anything, but I think the one where you have more control over what you're doing, I think it's always worth it in the long term, because you grow or learn, right? Mm-hmm. That's literally it. And yeah, I don't know. You'll find. I mean, bro, how many good guys, like, you know, Parisi's have done a great job with their gyms. You know, Boyle's done a great job with his gym. And I mean, Boyle and Cress, let's say Boyle, for example, his name is on the gym, which, you know, most, like Cressy, I remember hearing him say that's his biggest regret, putting his name on the gym. I'd like to know if Boyle felt the same way, because Boyle was very successful. But there's examples of it, of how it works. And you've got great people to work for you. Every year that you're in business, your reputation compounds. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, knowing you also with your personality, you don't like traveling. You don't want to be packing up and moving to places. You don't want to know if you've got a job or not, or you hear in the newspaper that the head coach has been sacked or wants to go somewhere else. And then you're, you know, like, there's no perfect, it's like the same with countries. There's no perfect country to live in. There's no perfect place. There's pros and cons to everything. And that's it. And you just got to weigh it up. Is that really what I want right now, because also there's also chaos that happens. You know, the best things and worst things in your life are always unpredictable and just, you know, they're going to pop up sometime, someplace. And it's just, you got to set your environment and then be like, okay, that's the thing that I want to grow with. And then that's it. And then just go for it.
Yep.
So I'm with you 100%. And I mean, that's all part of this game anyway. I mean, it's better off. I feel like it's better to look back every year and be like, man, I didn't know anything then whatsoever, than to go for a few years thinking that I'm the bee's knees and then having a big catastrophic change at some point, you know? Because I know I'm going to end up changing anyway. It's constantly happened. So why wouldn't it be the same thing next year, the year after that? So, but I think one thing that I've really come to understand this last year, the whole like working hard and working smart thing. I mean, for me, working smart and thinking long-term games, that's definitely the right thing, because working hard is coming anyway.
Yeah.
And that's also part of our personality. I feel like that might also be a limiter for us in some parts, because we always feel like we have to work so hard to kind of deserve it. But there's pros and cons to that too, right? You know, and there's not like, I mean, that pro and con, that goes to everything, even personality traits. There's good parts and bad parts to every single personality trait. And it's just, it is what it is. So you just got to weigh it up and understand what it is, and then just keep going ahead in the direction that you really want to go to. But, you know, your gym 8 years in, you've already, I mean, what's the percentage of businesses that are still going 8 years later?
No. And
minuscule.
And the ones that are, like, how many of them are making substantial livings or making livings that are very comfortable for multiple people? You know, like it's very difficult. Like, dude, gyms go up and down. Very seldom are they consistent, especially when it's an athlete training gym, because athlete training gyms are based off of reputation and, you know, like whatever's trendy at the time. Yep. You know, like there's a place that opened up around the block from us, well, a few miles from us, called D1. And people say, oh, D1. Like, it's a franchise. No, that died down. And they rented out a fuck ton of space. Wonder how long it's going to last. I was never worried for a fucking second. Never worried for a second. Not for 1 second was I worried about like a D1 facility opening up, but small gyms would be. Other small gyms would be. It didn't impact our business one bit. Not one bit that I'm aware of. That place opening could have closed down a couple of little small shops. So like it's where I am is very, very, I'm very fortunate. So like for me to do things and to set yourself up in those situations, you're in a similar spot where you don't have a gym, but you have a very good reputation. You don't need to worry about all that much. So things need to be fucking perfect for us to leave our situation.
Yep. Oh yes. Bro, I think that's fucking perfect.
Yeah. Let's end it on that.
That's fucking perfect. Yeah. Because we just end up repeating more and more of the same thing, but you're fucking spot on.